Welcome back to the Mountain Man Medical YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to talk about why belts make for crappy tourniquets. Stick around, we're going to get into that next. All right guys, in this week's video, we're going to talk a little bit about why belts don't make for good tourniquets. I hear about this all the time. I see it mostly in the comments and down below and things like that. I won't carry a medical kit or a tourniquet because if I ever needed one, I'll just use my belt. I mean, I'm wearing a belt all the time. Why not just use a belt, right? Well, there's some very key problems with that, and here's why. Reason number one why belts don't work is that your belt might be made of crap. If you get your belt from a big box store like Walmart or Target, then it's probably made out of genuine leather. Genuine leather is just basically leather sawdust that's been glued together to resemble leather. And this genuine leather has almost no resiliency whatsoever. It's going to break on you in a heartbeat. You're not going to be able to pull it, tighten up before it starts coming apart in your hands, especially if you're trying to apply a tourniquet to your leg, especially if you're a guy like me who's got thunder thighs. There's a lot of tissue in between the tourniquet and the artery, and you got to compress all of that tissue before you start to put pressure on the artery itself. Not having a good quality belt means that if you're cranking that thing down, trying to get it as tight as you can, there's a good chance it's just going to fail on you. Reason number two why belts make for crappy tourniquets is that there's no mechanical advantage. If you're going to try to use a belt as a tourniquet, you're probably going to push it through the buckle, loop it around your arm or whatever, and then you're just going to pull it tight, right? But there's no mechanical advantage here. You might get a little bit of leverage because you're pulling this down through the buckle, but for the most part, you're not going to be able to crank this on tight enough. Part of the reason why cat tourniquets work so well is because of this windlass. You are using a mechanical advantage to crank this down tighter and tighter and tighter until it cuts off all blood supply to that extremity. Now, even if you are able to get the belt cranked down tight enough to occlude the artery, now you're left with how to keep it there. If I run this around my arm and I pull this tight, I might get occlusion of the artery, but now what? Now I'm stuck holding this. Like we already said, I'm weak from blood loss. I'm not going to be able to hold this the entire time. There's a good chance I'm going to bleed out. So I don't have a way of securing this in place and holding this tourniquet down. Now, if we've got something like the cat tourniquet, it's got these little windlass retaining clips that we lock the windlass in place and then we secure it so that even if this comes loose, it's not going to pop off and it's not going to come loose on you. So this will continually work. Whereas this, you have to maintain that pressure all the time, which is going to be very difficult, if not impossible. It's hard to use a belt as a tourniquet, especially if you're one-handed. If this arm is all messed up and it's bleeding profusely and I'm trying to stop it, it's going to be really hard for me to get this cranked down and leave this in place and maintain all of that pressure. So I can hold it in place for as long as I can. I might even do the, the drug addict teeth method, trying to keep this in place. So it's really difficult to get a belt to stay in place and apply one-handed. Now, cat tourniquets are great for applying one-handed. So you can just pop this open, run this over a limb, tighten this down, couple turns of the windlass, in, and secure it. And you got a tourniquet in place. And I can already feel this thing. I got full occlusion of the artery just that quick. Whereas with a belt, you're not going to be able to do that. All right, guys, last reason why belts make for crappy tourniquets is that it's probably going to pinch the shit out of you. I did a lot of little testing trying to see if I can find a way to make a belt work as a tourniquet. And there's a couple other methods out there that I'm still exploring and experimenting with. But the main reason why I really hate belts as tourniquets is it's going to pinch the shit out of you. Anytime that I come in to try to crank down a tourniquet, I start getting a piece of my flesh caught inside of the belt and the buckle. And if I keep going, it just pinches it more and more and more. And tourniquets aren't meant to be comfortable. Cat tourniquets were going to be plenty uncomfortable. But using a belt to try to stop blood loss, it's going to hurt even more, because you're going to be pinching and damaging all of that tissue around the side of the buckle. Let's go over some of the reasons why I think belts should not be used as tourniquets and why you should always keep a cat tourniquet nearby. Reason number one, your belt might be made of crap. Belts generally aren't designed to be used as tourniquets. Reason number 2, there's no mechanical advantage. You're unlikely to be able to get this belt cranked down enough to occlude the artery. The reason why cat tourniquets work so well, it's because they've got a windlass that's used to use mechanical advantage and leverage to apply enough pressure to occlude the artery. Reason number 3 why it's difficult to use a belt as a tourniquet is because there's no way to secure it, even if you are able to put enough pressure to occlude the artery. Reason number 4 why a belt makes a bad tourniquet is because it's probably going to pinch the shit out of you. You're going to get some of your soft tissue bound up in the buckle as you try to tighten it, and it's going to hurt. And the last reason number 5, belts are hard to use one-handed. If you have to apply it to one arm or even to your leg using both arms, it's difficult to get enough leverage to pull it all the way down and tight enough to get it to occlude the artery. I appreciate everybody sticking around and listening to me talk about why belts make for crappy tourniquets. If you got anything out of this video, guys, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe and get these videos coming to you more often. I appreciate every single one of you. Head over to mountainmanmedical.com and pick yourself up a Wind River or a Yellowstone medical kit and be ready for whatever the mountain throws at you. I'll catch you guys in the next one.